What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I got a lot of DMs and a lot of comments asking about a lot of the pricing of the parts that I put on this bike, so I thought I would do a little bit of a build breakdown and give you guys kind of a general estimate of what it would cost to build a bike like this. I kind of went above and beyond with everything on this bike. You guys can kind of decipher what would be worth it for you. Some of the parts and other things that I did to this bike are not necessarily essentials, but some of them look really cool, some of them help with handling, some of them not so much. So I'll let you guys be the judge of what you think is worth it and give you guys kind of a breakdown on what it would cost to build a bike like this. So the first thing obviously is the bike itself. I did a little bit of research on the internet and it looks like it's anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000 for a new KTM 450. This is a 2020. Great bike, I loved it right out of the box. So I went ahead and threw that right in the middle at $11,000. I think that's just a good starting cost to give you a rough idea on the platform that I started with. The second most costly thing is obviously gonna be suspension. I went a little bit crazy with this, but my thinking behind it was I'm probably gonna get a KTM after this, so this will easily transfer over to the next bike. I went with a set of Technical Touch KYB factory fork and shock. Now the fork is identical to what I've been racing on my Honda for the past 4 or 5 years. It is a factory KYB setup with the best of the best coatings and internals and all that stuff. X-Trig converts the lugs to fit all the KTM specs as far as caliper placement to match up with the rotor and wheel spacing and all that stuff down low, and then they make a clamp that converts the front end to be I think it's a Honda front end, but it matches up with the the number plate and the fender, and everything lines up really good, went together really easy. Now the back end is a factory KYB Honda shock from 2016 with more of, you can see kind of the bell design, where now the reservoir is flat across the top of the bike. This matches right up to the top, and then I guess X-Trig makes a clevis to convert it to the right eye-to-eye length and width to fit the linkage. Pretty trick setup if you ask me. It fits really well. I haven't ridden on a motocross track, so I can't say how well it's gonna handle, but I can only imagine, mixed with the lightweight chassis of a KTM and the handling of a Honda, I can imagine that it's gonna handle pretty good. I do plan on converting it to motocross suspension in the coming weeks. I have a couple more things that I wanna film with this bike. It's set up very, very stiff. I think it's even stiffer than a Supercross setup right now, but that'll come in the next few weeks, and I'll definitely take you guys along for the ride. That cost, I looked up on Technical Touch's website, it is about $8,050. Now it's pretty pricey. They gave me a pretty hefty discount, so thank you to the guys over at Technical Touch. This stuff is very, very trick. I'm very happy to have it on my bike. They do make a spring fork KYB conversion that's a little bit more cost effective. That's just $1,800, and I can only guess that handles a lot better than the air fork that comes stock on the KTM. I know a lot of people go with the cone valve, so that's another option, but I wanted to stay KYB. I love the guys over at KYB. They've helped me out a lot, and I definitely trust those guys, so it's nice to keep that communication and keep that relationship going. And it was something that when I got this bike, I didn't know that you could put KYB on this. So I wanted to do it to kind of show you guys. I'm not necessarily a trailblazer, because I'm pretty sure like Chad Reed and a couple other guys have done this, but I wanted to do it and kind of get the knowledge out there to a few of you if you didn't know about it, just like I didn't know about it. Now the next price is kind of generic. I don't really know exactly what this was cost, but all the coatings on the bike I summed up to about $2,500. Specialized Coatings down in Huntington Beach, California did the frame, the swing arm, the linkage, and a few of the other random small parts. They did an amazing job. They stripped the frame of the original powder coat. They heat treat the weld so they look a little cooler, then they clear coat it. And these guys have been in business for a long time and in the motorsport industry for a long time, so I definitely trust them. I know they work with a lot of big names like Pro Circuit in the industry, so definitely when you're handing your stuff off to a powder coater or an anodizer, you definitely want to do your research. That coating I combined with the price of the Cerakote. My friend Mohead, who used to be Dean Wilson's mechanic, he was a factory Husqvarna mechanic for a long time, really good dude, and I really trust his work. He did the engine, the brakes, and the radiators. Now the engine obviously isn't the most practical thing to do because you do have to disassemble it, reassemble it to coat it, and then disassemble it again because it destroys a lot of the gaskets. From my knowledge, it's a pretty intense process and pretty hands-on too, so it's not really realistic to do the engine unless you're kind of searching for a one-off build like I did. Radiators are definitely a cool thing to do. I know that there's a little bit of testing going on that says that black radiators somehow cool better, so I don't know, that's just something that I heard, and then the black brakes just look cool. So Cerakote is a high temp coating that can withstand a lot of heat, so that's what we did on the engine, radiators, and brakes. Again, I'm estimating that cost between all the coatings to be about $2,500, give or take. I'm not sure if that's spot on or not, but my educated guess leaves me at $2,500. Moving on to the next thing. All the titanium parts that I got through Moto Stuff, that cost about $1,000. Some of this stuff is really trick, like the foot pegs are one of my favorite things on the bike. They're Thai foot pegs, a little bit more grip, obviously a little bit lighter, a little stronger. A bunch of other little dress-up pieces like with the engine, with the front end. The guys over at Moto Stuff helped me out a lot with my 250 build, so I was really happy to have them come on board for this build. Thai is just something that's really cool, looks really awesome on the bike, and adds a little bit of flair too. The next cost I have on this bike is something that I think is really essential, is the Hinson clutch. Stock clutches are pretty good. I think it's a good thing to run while you're breaking in the engine. And then once it's time for your first oil change and you're looking for a little bit more power and get up on the bike, I think Hinson is definitely one of the power upgrade mods that I would do first. I've run Hinson in my bike since I was an amateur, so it's been a long run with those guys, and they've always treated me really well. So if you're looking for a little bit of performance upgrade without too much risk involved, the clutch is definitely an essential, and that I have at about $1,000. I'm not sure if that varies bike to bike, but it is an essential in my book. Hinson clutch is second to none in the clutch business, that's for sure. They've been around forever, so definitely trust those guys and want them involved, and definitely want their products in all my bikes. The next item I have on here is the wheel set. Now W has helped me out with all my builds. They do an amazing job. You can pick anything from color spokes, nipples, rims, hubs, whatever you want. They have it. They can customize anything, or you can use something simple. They're a distributor, but Kite, Talon, Excel, DID, they do it all, and I definitely trust those guys with all my builds. This particular set is a Kite hub with a little bit beefier spoke, nipple, and rim setup. Went with the DID rim. These things withstood step up, quarter pipe, ramps, everything. I didn't even get to break them in. I went straight to the Fight Club competition on these wheels, and they held up pretty well. I do have the front wheel off here right now because I wanted to switch up the front tire. These are actually the exact same set of wheels that I had on my CRF 250 that were in a straight rhythm. This particular wheel set will cost about $1,430 to the normal consumer. That is pretty pricey, but wheels are literally the only part of the bike that should touch the ground, so I think that's a pretty essential cost right there. The next cost I have on here is the exhaust system. Now you can't get a completely carbon setup like I have on this bike, but you can get the full Thai one, which I have marked down at $950. Yoshimura is a great exhaust brand, one of the best in the industry, and I highly recommend checking out what they can offer on your bike. That was another thing that I didn't know, that they even made exhaust for KTM, and when I got the KTM I was a little bummed that that relationship might go away, but happy to say that they do make exhaust for all the Euro brands. The next cost I have is $700 for the ECU. Now this is tuned by the guys over at Twisted Development. I'm not a huge horsepower mod guy. I like it to be more of kind of a gradual build, and the guys over at Twisted Development can definitely handle that for you. This is a Vortex ECU. It's great because if you are looking for a lot of power, they can tune it for that, or if you're like me and you like more of a mellow power, I think 450s are more than enough to the everyday rider and even the pros. So they can kind of fine tune that for you. So go check out Twisted Development. They do an amazing job with anything. They can do engine builds, ECUs, whatever. Gotta send a huge shout out to those guys for helping me out with the ECU setup. The next cost I have on here is the Nihilo parts. That cost about $600. I have the stator cover. I also have the clutch cover, but I went ahead and ran the Hinson one. But also the skid plate, full carbon fiber skid plate that looks really cool. It goes really well with the bike. Protects the engine, protects the frame and all that stuff. So that's definitely an essential cost. Thanks to the guys at Nihilo for helping out on this build. The number one and most easy way to make your bike look good is the graphics that you put on the bike. I think that's pretty obvious. And the next two costs are pretty affordable and will change the look of your bike a lot. The guys over at MotoCuts always help me out. They cost about $125 for a set of graphics. Not only does it make the bike look better, it protects the plastics. I mean, you're personalizing your bike, so I think that looks really awesome. That's also paired up with the seat cover from Thrill Seekers. Now, I didn't know how cheap both these things were until I looked it up, but $125 for graphics is pretty cheap, as well as $65 for seat cover. Changes the look of the bike, changes the feel of the bike. Two pretty essential things to making your bike look good. MotoCuts and Thrill Seekers always do an amazing job, super easy guys to work with. The next piece is the plastics themselves. Obviously you don't need to change the color of your bike. I actually got these black ones. I have a set of white and gray. Every set of plastics that I've got are so far $160 a piece. Kind of again, just a personalized thing. I know a lot of people who are gonna buy KTMs are probably gonna keep them orange, but I wanted to make this thing as blacked out as possible for the competition. The next cost I have on my list are the tires. Now I'm just running a standard set of Dunlop Geo Max MX33s. That's gonna run you about $100. Dunlop is one of the best in the game. I've run them forever and always love the performance that I get out of my tires. Now I'm running Renthal products on this bike. That's the sprocket, bars, and grips. That's gonna cost about 200 bucks. It's a pretty easy mod. Pretty much anybody can do this, and comfort is key when it comes to bars and grips. The chain on this bike is a DID chain. That costs about 160 bucks. The frame guards, I don't really remember what brand these are. I think they're P3 if I'm not mistaken. I did buy these at a dealership. They cost about $140. The carbon fiber disc guard setup that I have on this bike costs about 150 bucks. I think what I did on this bike, if I remember right, it's an Acerbis disc guard, a carbon fiber one with a P3 disc mount, and you just have to drill the holes a little bit bigger. The only reason I did the combination of the two was because the P3 one is black, so it kind of blended it a little better. You can't just do a P3 disc guard with a P3 wheel spacer disc mount or Acerbis on Acerbis. I'm just picky and went black on black because why not? The extras that I might have missed, I threw in an extra $1,000. That might be a little bit of a buffer for cost on things or labor or shipping. I didn't include any of that stuff obviously, so it's probably gonna run you a little bit more than what I just listed. And again, the point of this whole video is just for you guys to kind of pick out what you like. If you're looking to do that kind of stuff to your bike, then give you a rough estimate on what it's gonna cost you. So adding all of my costs up, if you were to build this bike, it would cost about $29,330. Again, that's not an exact price, but that's a rough estimate. And the whole point of this build was to kind of knock this thing out of the park and go above and beyond. Kind of introduce some brands that I didn't know that were affiliated with KTM aftermarket parts, kind of show you guys those paths. But anyways, thank you again for watching. As always, if you don't already, subscribe, like the video, and we will catch you in the next one. I have just finished moving. Just got back from Sturgis, so I'm gonna try and get back on the consistent upload program that I was on before. I don't know about daily uploads like I was doing, but definitely week to week, hopefully multiple times a week. But again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
Aside from my soul.